Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I rise today to speak in favor of Bill C-282, an act to amend the Department of Foreign Affairs Trade and Development Act, Supply Management, and to speak against the report of the Foreign Affairs and International Trade Committee and the amendment they have put forward. Our dairy, poultry, and egg industries have asked us to pass this bill in its original unamended form. With the amendment proposed by the committee in place, this bill will not apply to any trade deals currently in force and any renegotiations or deals in the course of being negotiated. It would make the bill ineffective. I want to take this time to share just a few views of Canadians who support this bill. Just listen to Steve Verhooy, our chief trade negotiator from 2017 to 2021, who has said that, and I quote, "I really see this more as a political signal of support to the dairy sector and to supply management more broadly. I don't expect this to have a huge impact on negotiations going forward." The Canadian Federation of Agriculture said, "In practice, Bill 282 elevates the decision-making threshold to trade away Canadian food security by requiring an explicit decision from Parliament to do so." Were a future government to seek such a concession from Parliament, it is worth noting that such a concession, while adding an additional complexity to the process, could carry even greater weight in negotiations. La Fédération des producteurs d'œufs du
The Federation of Egg Producers of Quebec said as follows: "Where eggs are concerned, the last 50 years under supply management have proven that there is no shortage of eggs in Canada. In fact, our eggs are of a higher quality because the number of programs that producers are required to participate in ensure that Canadians have access to a healthy product that can be traceable to individual farms and retailers, that is nutritious, that respects animal well-being, and that has a low carbon footprint."
Farmers in other provinces have explained to us in their brief to the committee, trade agreements play an important role in helping Canada's agricultural sector reach its full potential. However, the pursuit of these ambitious goals must not come at the expense of the stability of our food of our food supply and rural communities. Bill C-82 will prevent the erosion of Canadian egg, poultry, and dairy production and allow us to continue producing stable foods within our borders. In a brief submitted by Professors Maurice Doyon, Professor of Agriculture at Laval, Bruce Muirhead, Professor of History at Waterloo, and Jody Nurse, a lecturer at the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada, these experts on supply management said, "International trade agreements have already worked to disrupt Canada's dairy, eggs, and poultry industries, and any further negotiations could lead to the complete restructuring of these sectors and the communities that they serve." Supply management's ability to provide stability in the countryside should not be undervalued. The Canadian model of supply management has protected supply-managed farmers from the worst excesses of the so-called free market, while also providing consumers with a competitively priced and nutritious product. End of quote. Colleagues, this bill is about sending a signal to our trade partners. The bar for concessions in this area is high. Not impossible, but high. It is high because this is a system that works well for us already. This bill can only be said to weaken our hand if the objective is actually to give away supply-managed quota. There may be times when we need to do that as part of the overall deal, but it shouldn't be our objective. The amendment, as proposed, takes away this benefit. Colleagues, I encourage you to vote against the amendment and the committee's report on Bill C-82, and in so doing, vote in favor of protecting our agricultural industries, our jobs, and our food supply. Thank you.
Senator Plett, you have a question?
I have a question if Senator Cardozo would take it. Sure. Thank you, Senator Cardozo. So I find myself certainly, at least in part, agreeing, maybe not entirely. I believe this is more of a trade bill than a supply management bill. But be that as it may, you started off your speech with indicating that this is something the agricultural sector pretty much across the board wanted, at least the supply management part of it, and implied that for those reasons we should support it. And that I find myself largely agreeing with. So I guess my question, Senator Cardozo, is that we have three bills, bang, 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 all dealing with agriculture. Maybe called something else, but we have 275, 280, and 282. 275 and 280 also have been significantly amended that have the same risk of killing the bills if those amendments would pass, as 282 does. I agree with that this amendment pretty much destroys 282. So would you agree then, Senator Cardozo, because the other two we know were unanimously supported by the stakeholders. The farmers came and begged us, please don't put any amendment. 280, the producers, the stakeholders, the same thing. Both of them have been amended to the point where it literally would kill the bill. So would you agree, Senator Cardozo, that those amendments should also then be defeated the same as you suggest this one is?
Thank you very much for your question, Senator Plett. The discussion today is on this bill, 282, with Bill C-280, and I'm not sure if it's proper for me to go into that too long at this time since it's a different subject. But let's say I listened to your speech, and my emotions were the same as your emotions today about my speech. I agreed with some parts of it and really disagreed with some parts of it. I think I agreed with some of the content. Perhaps some of the approach could have been different. But that said, I will ask you to, if you don't mind, hold your breath to see how I vote on that bill. But I'm certainly listening with very open ears on 280.
Senator
Well, thank you.
Plett.
Just one brief supplementary, and thank you for that. And some of us get emotional when we're really involved in something. And I find myself many times getting emotional. But I trust, and I will hold my breath. I may lose that breath after the vote. I hope I don't. But nevertheless, Senator Cardozo, I do sincerely hope that you and everybody else in this chamber will vote based on the content and not on the delivery of my speech. Thank you.
Senator Cardozo.
Thank you, Senator. A few weeks ago, there was a change of seating arrangements around this chamber, and I find strange as I sit closer to you and on the same side that from time to time I'm finding radical agreement on some points. It's causing me some sleepless nights, but I'm trying to separate the emotion of the sleepless night from the content of the arguments. I'd rather not comment on that part.
Would Senator Cardozo take a question?
Sure.
Senator Beam.
Thank you for your remarks, Senator Cardozo. I just have a kind of a question for you that's got a couple questions in it. Would you agree that the CUSMA, the new North American trade agreement, the Canada-Europe trade agreement, CETA, and the CPTPP, the Canada-Pacific Region Agreement, negotiated over two governments, are good deals for Canada? And if you do, would you agree that our negotiators did a very good job? And that the end result in the last three, where there was a little bit given up, particularly in the dairy sector, there was fair compensation by the government to the producers. If you agree to all of that, would you agree that this bill is unnecessary?
Senator Cardozo.
I think I go back, and let me requote Steve Verhooy, who was chief trade negotiator from 2017 to 2021, who my guess is you will know quite well and will have worked for him, and I'll just requote him. I see this more as a political signal of support to the dairy sector and to the supply management more broadly. I don't expect this to have a huge impact on negotiations going forward. So I think in legislation, we always do a combination of things, and sometimes our bills are strongly weighted in terms of sending signals and explaining values, and at times they are more focused on the minutiae of administration. I think this bill does a bit of both, but perhaps does more in terms of sending signals and providing a strong sense of support to the supply management, the dairy sector, at this particular time.
Senator Beam.
Thank you, Senator. Would you feel that in terms of sending signals, this bill sends an interesting signal to the incoming U.S. administration?
Senator Cardozo.
That's a really interesting question, and we're all thinking a lot about what the new Trump administration means to us, and I find myself often torn on this because we are an independent country. We're not a colony of the U.S. We're good friends with them. They're our strongest trade partner, and I think at the end of the day, we have to sort of balance where is it that we keep our independence and where do we behave like a colony of theirs. And so I think with each issue we sort of make our judgments, and you and I might come to a slightly different judgment on that issue. I'm not suggesting that you're happy for Canada to be a colony at all, but I think we all make those judgments of all those complex issues together.
Senator Coyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would Senator Cardozo accept a question?
Sure.
Senator Coyle.
Thank you. Thank you for your speech. You've, I think, done a great job of representing the interests of Canada's supply managed sector, which I think most of us are very supportive of, even if we are supportive, some of us, of the amendment to this bill. Could you tell us why you are putting so much credence on the statements of one trade negotiator, and I don't know what his background is or what his sympathies might be for the supply managed sector, when we have heard from many other trade negotiators and trade specialists who have told us this is going to be disastrous?
Senator Cardozo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wouldn't call Steve Verhooy just one trade negotiator. He was our chief trade negotiator for a number of key years fairly recently. And I would also look at the voices of the agriculturalists that I quoted, in addition to some experts that I quoted as well. So, it's one of those issues. I don't think you're wrong and I'm right. I think that we each read a number of different views and listen carefully and are influenced by some. I don't think that there is a real right and real wrong on this issue. I think it's a matter of listening to the various views and taking a position at the end of the day on one side or the other.
Senator Coyle.
Thank you, Senator Cardozo. Well, 10 members of our Foreign Affairs and International Trade Committee listened hard to testimony from a wide range of groups and came down and have proposed to this body that actually this bill needs to be amended in the way that it has in the report that you've heard about. I'm also curious, now you're talking about the agricultural sector. You heard me read Tuesday evening in my speech on the report the long list, and it wasn't an exhaustive list, there are others, but a long list of those in our agricultural and non-agricultural sectors who are vehemently opposed to this bill. Could you speak to that?
Well, in terms of the...
Senator Cardozo, your time for debate has expired.
5 minutes.
Are you asking for more time?
5 minutes.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer the question.
5 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking Senator Cardozo. I'd like to hear him say what he would want.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd be happy to answer the senator's question.
Is leave granted, honourable senators? Senator Cardozo.
Thank you. So, yes, indeed, 10 senators have voted in the way you mentioned. There are some 447 parliamentarians altogether. And in the first round in the House of Commons, the vast majority of the 338 there voted for it. So in terms of numbers, it's, 100 and 200 versus 10? And again, I don't say there's, some people might feel there's right and wrong. I think this is a complex issue, and at the end of the day, we have to make judgments in what we hear and what we think and what we believe, and we have to cast a vote at the end of the day.